I doubt whether he knows anything about corruption.
We love Clarke very much.
I'm a servant of the people. These people give me a mandate. I cannot be considered a colonialist because if I was a colonialist, I would have imposed myself on people.
People see him, he's out there and he's very vocal. People know he's trying his best.
Think, what's my business? Am I growing mushrooms? Am I raising chickens?
Ian Clarke, African politician with a difference. Is he a new colonial master or a champion of the people?
People did say our Ugandan politicians have failed us. So let's try this guy.
Mission to mend the restless world of Ian Clarke. These are the slums of Makindye Division, Kampala, Uganda. Odd though it may seem, the residents are singing the praises of a local politician.
We had many prostitutes in this area. He managed to give them jobs.
Namulonda emirundi nga awo balukumi oba emitwalo emirundi n'emirundi gyonna.
As him is a white man, I think can do better than an Africans.
Looking for his address. You need to get this guy.
The man they're talking about is a white medical doctor with a flair for getting things done. Ian Clarke, Irish by birth, but now a Ugandan citizen, has turned all conventional ideas about African politics upside down.
And are they going to put some more culverts in at the river?
Yeah.
Because that's a bad crossing.
Meters.
Right,
Yeah.
to make that crossing okay.
We vote Ian Clarke because he came with his good services.
We love Clarke very much.
In 2011, Dr. Clarke won the election for chairman of Kampala's Makindye Division, one of 5 in the city. With more than twice the number of votes of his nearest rival, he's now 2 years into his 5-year term.
Okay. I've been writing social commentary in the main Sunday newspaper for some time, and I thought I can either be this talking head, this talking Mzungu. By that stage, I was a Ugandan citizen, or I can get involved in the issues because I keep complaining about potholes. I complain about the lack of service delivery at government level. So, am I going to just be the person who writes the commentary? Or will I actually say, look, there's a problem here, can I be part of the solution and not just the person commentating on the problem? And that's really why I went into politics, and it was in the basis of very basic service delivery elements. Cleaning the drainage channels, cleaning the roads, fixing the potholes, still a big challenge, and emptying public toilets, delivering basic health services, that kind of thing.
The Kampala of today is very different from the world that Ian Clarke first encountered when he arrived here from his native island. Back in 1987, Uganda was emerging from the long civil war that brought a young Yoweri Museveni to power. This was a bush war involving child soldiers that left local villagers confused and terrified. Tens of thousands had died in the infamous Luwelo Triangle. Into this desolate world came a young mission doctor who wanted to make a difference.
There was a bush war between 82 and 86. I came in 87, and I went to the area where this war had been conducted in what was called the Luwelo Triangle. It was pretty devastated. There was lots of skulls and bones and, you know, the evidence of the killings. They called it at that stage the killing fields of Africa. At that stage I was working as a GP in Northern Ireland, and I didn't feel particularly fulfilled in the job that I was doing. And it was also to do with my Christian faith, because I felt like here I was a practicing Christian, but I was just doing the same as everybody else. I was treating little old ladies with blood pressure, you know, which other people could have done. I felt like I wanted to be involved in something that was more useful, more meaningful. And that really focused me on Africa. At the time, I knew about the HIV epidemic, which basically centered around Uganda, Congo. So that was kind of the motivation why I came here on an exploratory visit in 87.
When he arrived, there was no shortage of work to be done. The ravages of war and HIV were everywhere. Bosco Sanogo was a local volunteer who worked with Ian on his arrival. A quarter of a century after the fighting stopped, the memories are still painful.
It was not easy to live in this place because it was very bushy and people couldn't stay in their house. They had to go in the bush, and being in the bush, you are also called a gorilla. And once the soldier men gets you in the bush, you are killed. There's some evidence you can see. The bombed houses are still around in the place. People go to dig and they can find skulls hanged in the bush. And there are all those memory graves which were built. And whenever you see skulls, you are touched. And you think sisters and brothers were killed innocently.
When he came, this place had no infrastructures like buildings, schools and other things, because that was immediately after the war, and the skulls and bones were placed on stalls along the road. Because he was a medical worker and we never had any health facility in the area, we started going to him for treatment, and that created a need to start a clinic. So we moved from the clinics under trees which were located within his compound to the church building which is behind me. That was the only building remaining because other buildings had been damaged by the soldiers. And because that was where they were sheltering from, then they maintained that one. He started attending to patients for almost a year. Then in the early 89, he got funds and moved from that church to this small dispensary.
I came to work with Dr. Ian Clarke, that was in 88, just meeting me on the church. I was conducting church service, and when he talked around, he was asking for people who can give a hand. And I was one of the volunteers who agreed to work with an Irish man whom I didn't know that he was a doctor, but I started working with him. And during that time, there were so many people who came from the bush with different complaints. Others complaining swollen legs, others with wounds, others with HIV. People were malnourished, the children were with kwasako, children with marasmus, and all those people came to get service from Ian Clarke.
Dr. Clarke has long since left Chiwoko, but the hospital he founded has grown enormously. It now has 250 beds and serves 500,000 local people.
One of the big successes of Chuku Hospital is that we're still here. So 25 years later, the project that was started is not just existing, but it's thriving, treating nearly 50,000 patients a year. Without that, most of our patients would have no health care at all. Ian Clarke's the grandfather of Chuku. People in our community still remember Dr. Ian. If he happens to be up this way, Many folk are very excited and they're pleased to see him and say hello to him, and he is very much connected with having started and continued to support something that is a success in this community and is viewed as a success far beyond this community as well.
After several years at Chiwoko, Ian returned to Europe for more study. But once again he sought to apply his skills in Uganda, and Kampala was to become his permanent home.
This time I said, I'd like to be involved more in what I would term not the aid sector, but in sustainable development. Eva, what's your temperature now? I came into the private sector and I started again. And not this time a clinic under a tree, but a small clinic in Kampala. And then I took what was generated from that clinic and then I kept putting it into developing better facilities.
Today, these better facilities comprise the International Medical Group, which includes a private hospital, an air ambulance service, and a teaching hospital for nurses. The group employs 700 people. Although these services are private, they're not designed just for the rich. The system he's created embraces private sector efficiency with public sector service.
Actually, yeah. Let me see, look up, Delight. People, when they're paying school fees, they don't have money to pay for medical treatment. And so we developed a membership organization, basically a local insurance organization. And that evened out our cash flow imbalances. And then from that, I developed more clinics, and then finally I got a greenfield site and then built a purpose-built hospital. Can't they do that? And then they give you malaria, and you get malaria, and then you get sick. Okay.
Yeah, so she was given 3 doses of tisane, and they did a repeat PS yesterday night after her last dose, which was negative.
It's clear now.
She's much better. Her appetite is good.
But all this has not been enough for Dr. Ian Clarke.
Somebody's fly tipping here.
Dismayed with the quality of public services in Kampala, he's ventured into politics with spectacular success.
Namuongo is down, and that one is not expected to be fixed until maybe the next 1 month.
I'll get my truck. Have you got a driver for my truck? There was a resonance with the people, and there was a resonance with the very poor, and there was certainly a resonance with the middle class groups as well.
We must engage the local leaders so that when we speak, we are all speaking the same language.
Don't forget, I have quite a long track record, both here and in Luwelo. And so people checked up on me and they said, yeah, the guy's actually done some stuff, and maybe he'll deliver. I mean, people did say, our Ugandan politicians have failed us. So let's try this guy.
People in the community already knew him. We also know that he had already engaged on another front, that was writing, so he was a writer. And as a columnist, we knew that he was involved, or he was observing society.
I was a little bit surprised because we've never had this in Uganda, but I didn't get the feeling that people were negative generally. People did wonder how he would cope though with African politics, definitely, but not a lot of negativity, a lot of surprise certainly.
I got very many reactions. Some have been congratulatory. A lot of people have just been bemused. I think bemused. I'm just like, what's the guy doing?
There were no systems per se. These are just being sorted out. But despite this, he does try his best to deliver, and people are aware of it. I had a phone call from a relative this week just to tell me, oh, well, when Ian comes back, I'm definitely voting for him. And I say to her, why? She said, oh, I just drove past him and he's supervising the roadworks in Bunga. So people see him, he's out there and he's very vocal. People know he's trying his best.
Ian's popularity comes from the fact that he's not afraid to go back to basics. Drains, potholes and public toilets are not glamorous preoccupations, but to a people used to being ignored, they mean a lot.
The actual position that I stood for as local government, it's for the implementation of services, and fixing the roads, fixing the potholes is part of that. So this is what we're trying to do here. We cut out the potholes, we shape them, and then we put in a base layer, and then we put in tarmac. That's the idea. No one was doing anything about them. If we can't fix our potholes, what can we do? It seems a fairly basic issue.
About 2 years' time that he has been in office, there is a difference. There is a noticeable difference. I've witnessed this myself, but I've also heard it from people confessing that they see a difference. Something I can personally testify of is you won't see a pothole last 2 weeks. They get fixed within this division very fast. Other divisions are envying this division, saying the place is clean. Second thing is the roadworks. You can see purely that the roadworks are there. Then the third is more engagement in the community on aspects of health. So there's been several campaigns that he's been involved in where the community come to clean up the community. So we've seen an involvement of people taking interest to improve their environment.
In slum areas, garbage is a major health hazard. Clean drains and recycling projects are thus central to Dr. Clarke's drive to improve the lives of Kampala's poorest people.
This plastic is a community project which was set by Dr. Ian Clarke. The plastic was blocking the culverts, whereby water couldn't pass in the drain. When a person collects a kilogram of plastic, is paid 300. When he collects 30 kilograms, you find that he's having 9,000 a day. A person who couldn't get something like 10,000 a day can get some money which can help his family to survive.
Health is the most important thing in our life. If you are healthy, you can do everything. If there is blockage in the drainage channel, it causes flooding. Namungu used to flood every time, but nowadays he has created this channel. The building of this channel has prevented flooding to people's houses, whereby people are getting health. They are no more attacked by malaria as usual.
This community is built along the railway line, and before I became mayor, people were coming at night and dumping a lot of garbage along the line. So now we've stopped that, and we're taking that garbage away. We're actually pulling the plastics and stuff out of the garbage that comes in a sort of transit station. We take the plastics out of it, we take some vegetative matter out of it. The plastics we recycle like this, and the vegetable matter we dry, and then we make charcoal out of it. And so we're clearing, and we've cleared the garbage. Obviously there was a lot of garbage. The children were getting diseases from that, so we've been clearing it with my office and with some friends, some people who've raised money in the UK from the events industry. And we call it Events for Namawongo. And it's a kind of twinning of these people with the events industry, with this community, and then with my facilitation and with a local small organisation, we're able to do all this work together. When you do little things and you lift the spirits of the community, this is a very poor community, then you actually bring more general well-being altogether. So it's really been a very positive project.
There was no toilets in this place, public toilets, but if we move here around, there is a public toilet there. I built not only in this zone, but several zones was giving toilets.
Ian Clarke netumusaba n'atuwa toy era n'atulaganyisa okujja okutuwa toy endala naye gye tukyayina eri emu eyina emizigo 3 naye nga nyimpi abantu abali wano buli week tuteekuba okuba nga tugijjamu olw'okuba abantu nyimpi okuva wansi awo.
So I'm just introducing the program. I think the questions will be more for the technical side of things, okay?
For Ian, the handout mentality is bad for Kampala. Business sense and self-reliance are critical to development for young people.
People sometimes think if I've got 2 million shillings, now I've got money. But it's just the stuff, the startup capital, the stuff you've been crying for, and you need to know that business is going to produce money to pay the 10% interest to be able to repay that loan. Okay, so think, what's my business? Am I growing mushrooms? Am I raising chickens? You know, am I doing, I don't know, catering? Am I doing steel fabrication? Whatever, you know. And there is money in agriculture, by the way.
He's not the type that's going to sit around having meeting after meeting and not getting things done. He'd rather actually be out working than meetings. Meaning sometimes he's very reluctant to actually have the meetings he's supposed to, which can be quite interesting. But he's a very hands-on person.
I spent a lot of my time being frustrated with the central government institutions. So things that would be simple for me to carry out in the private sector, I find become, you know, massive tasks where I have to make so many phone calls, push so many people, make a fuss, you know, just to get small things done. So it is massive effort. It's like rolling a stone up a hill. And so for that reason I am frustrated, and I end up using even my own resources.
They're not companies.
It's the traditional model of African politics that Ian is seeking to challenge. He is there to serve the people, not the other way round.
Generally speaking, there isn't this sense of, I have a responsibility to my country, and so I need to do this basically as a servant and not as a lord. There. And then there's something, this other councillor, he's around. Can he come in a minute? You know, I'm here, I'm a representative of the people, I'm a servant of the people. These people give me a mandate. I cannot be considered a colonialist, because if I was a colonialist, I would have imposed myself on people. Okay, have you got somebody left and you're impressed you're going to spend some money on tools?
Ian Clarke, I doubt whether he knows anything about corruption. For him, he likes development.
With Ian, people are aware that service provision is what he's here to do, and to make sure he makes a little bit of a difference during the 5 years he's in office.
You tend to find that expatriates will stand aside and criticise. They say, look at that, can you imagine? Do you see what happened there? You know, that's all right. You know, these things are going wrong, but what are we doing about it? The interesting thing is, it's a lot easier to understand the politics from the inside than from the outside. So now I have a much greater understanding of the areas which are dysfunctional. And sometimes it's not the areas that people are focusing on. Sometimes people are shouting at the politicians and the problems in the public sector. It's in the civil service itself.
So she directed finance to increase the money. And
outside politics, Ian has shown another sign of immersion into the local culture. Numerous young people that he and his wife have taken in as their own. Joanne comes from the north of the country. She was growing up at a time when the Lord's Resistance Army of Joseph Kony was abducting many local children. 2 of her sisters had been taken. After she was introduced to Ian, she moved down to Kampala to be with his family.
He's the best father you could ever ask for. He's my best friend, actually. I talk to him about anything. He's a great father. He will scold you when there's need to, and then he will comfort you. He'll talk to you. He's just great.
I think I have about, they get added on to, but I have about 12 young people who ages between 40 and the youngest one would be 13. I do provide that stability and security. They know they can come to me. They know I love them. They know, they've got a family, and it's very important. Somewhere where you can run to, somewhere that you know this is your family. Especially if you're an orphan, or you've really gone through bad stuff. Yeah.
One of the reasons for Dr. Clarke's success has been a relaxed attitude to race in the country. When the first European explorers arrived here in the 1850s, they admired the rich local culture. In the scramble for Africa that followed, much of it was left intact. To this day, race relations in Uganda have been more cordial than elsewhere on the continent.
People in Uganda are generally very open and very welcoming people. So while they will obviously notice that Ian's not black and he's a Mzungu, I think mainly it is a non-issue. On a whole, it is what it is and people have accepted it.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to be supervising this contract because it's in your... I find an easy relationship with people, even though my language in Uganda is minimal. I don't try to be the African, I'm just this Irishman in Africa or this African Irishman or whatever, what I am now. And everyone accepts me as I am. So I must say I really, really like that about Uganda. There's none of this sort of layering of society in that sense.
So what do you think of the pictures?
People are secure, so why should they be bothered whether you're black, white or pink? And I'm a bit pink.
Color has never been an issue. It has no significance at all. So he actually considers himself African, so yeah. So we look beyond the color bit.
So what next for Dr. Clarke? Having come this far, a higher profile beckons when his current term expires.
Okay, guys, we need to go. Okay. If I stay in politics, I won't stay in this position. I'll either stand for mayor of the city or I'll stand for parliament.
I'm very confident that his current popularity will endure and maybe even increase somewhat. I think that as systems are put in place and as it becomes less frustrating trying to get stuff done within KCCA or Kampala, I think that will also help give him a bit more of momentum in terms of what he's doing.
In the end, people have voted for Ian Clarke not because he's white, but because of what he delivers. It now remains for people born and raised in Uganda to continue what he has started.
Many people have looked at him as a model to follow. I think he has inspired many people. If not the politicians, he's inspired other leaders in other circles. So I feel that his being there has caused a certain buzz within society, which is towards the positive